Hey everybody, it says welcome back to another Battlefield video. A former DICE developer stirred up Reddit this week with some pretty bold claims. But what most people don't know is that I also spoke to a DICE developer privately, and I'm gonna reveal the details of that discussion today exclusively on this channel. And what they shared adds a lot more context. Some of it lines up with what was posted, but there are key details that the public hasn't heard yet until now. Let's start with the Reddit post first. Former DICE developer chimed in when someone accused the devs of not listening to players about fixed weapons for classes. He said, "That is not quite true. It was already a controversial topic internally during the development of the predecessor. If such decisions were made by majority votes among the developers, things would almost always look different." So it's pretty clear to me that DICE developer is shifting blame towards the creative director of Battlefield 2042 for the specialists having unlocked class lock weapons, and possibly even for specialists existing in the first place.
Don't be sad.
This is just how it works out sometimes.
Now, before we head into my discussion with the DICE developer, if you guys are enjoying the content here on the channel, make sure you subscribe for future content as well. I cover Battlefield 6 extensively. I spoke to this developer about 3 weeks ago. For obvious reasons, because he's still working within the first-person shooter industry, he wishes to remain anonymous. So I will verbally tell you the details of our discussion. And guys, some of it is extremely interesting. You never heard these things before. Of course, as a creator, credibility is everything to me, so I checked the credibility of this person before I decided to make this video. And guys, it checks out. This guy worked at EA DICE from 2017 to 2019, primarily on Battlefield 5, but he also worked a little bit on Star Wars Battlefront 2 leading up to the launch of that game. So, after I checked his credentials, my first question was the development of Battlefield 5 complicated and did it hurt the final product? His answer was, Battlefield 5 was not necessarily complicated, but it was very rushed. As it was told to me at the time, it was planned that DICE LA would make Battlefield 5 and were planning to run the title alone. But the early planning wasn't good, so DICE Sweden completely took over Battlefield 5. Only a handful of people worked on it until like November, December, early design phase, design visions, as such things. And from that point on, all people from Battlefield 1 live servers were moved on to Battlefield 5 and the proper production has started, with roughly half the studio force, he says, 9 to 10 months before the release of Battlefield 5. He says, which is not a lot of time, and due it to Star Wars Battlefront 2 controversy and the plummeted sales of that game, when the fiscal year ended that March, almost all people were moved to the Battlefield 5 team, in a wink of an eye. People went to a town hall meeting before with the understanding they work on Star Wars Battlefront 2 and would be doing so for the coming time. But with the end of the year, they just nuked Star Wars Battlefront 2 and moved the majority of people on Battlefield 5 and left like 20, maybe 30 people on Star Wars Battlefront 2. And now DICE did Battlefield 5 with full force 6 months before the release of the game. So that was just the first part of his answer. So we have DICE LA was to solo run Battlefield 5, Star Wars Battlefront 2 got nuked for Battlefield 5, they made Battlefield 5 in record time for DICE development, and a lot of reused things from Battlefield 1. I want to chime in here and just give my 2 cents on this. It is really sad that Star Wars Battlefront 2 got nuked for Battlefield 5. I would argue that Star Wars Battlefront 2 is a more fun game for me than Battlefield 5 ever was. So that is really unfortunate. It is also unfortunate that DICE LA wasn't able to run that game themselves, because as you will see later, DICE Sweden really put some things onto DICE LA which probably hurt Battlefield 5. That'll be in the second portion of his answer, and a lot of things were reused from Battlefield 1. Honestly, I didn't see much of those things being reused personally. Perhaps they were masking it very well, but the UI was different, the movement was different, the gunplay was different, so I'm not sure what exactly were they reusing from Battlefield 1. Whoever did the reused assets work for Battlefield 1, for Battlefield 5 from Battlefield 1, did a pretty good job in my opinion. He continues, but basically, because Battlefield 5 was such a short-term notice game, there was not a whole lot of prototyping time or conceptual ideas. Things had to be done quite directly, as there was no time to rework things. There was a co-op mode, but the management was not happy with it and nuked it 1 or 2 months before the release of the game. And they put a plan up to put something similar to co-op so it could fulfill its marketing promise. And now the big part, guys. But also, the design director at the time already talked about heroes and specialists instead of the classes, but the Steam timeline of Battlefield 5 and the risk connected with it is probably the cause why it was pushed back to Kingston instead of Casablanca. I'm not sure what he meant with that phrase, but this is what he said. Battlefield 5 had literally no time for ideas. Co-op mode was scrapped by EA. Creative design director pushed for specialists all the way back in 2018, but Battlefield 5 slim timeline did not allow for heroes. So my answer to him was, you know what, I think Battlefield 5 is a decent game considering it was made in like 8 to 9 months. I mean, can you imagine, guys? That is pretty crazy. I think with that knowledge, I think I appreciate Battlefield 5 just a little bit more. But the problems it had, for example, where they had no time for ideas at all, is why Battlefield 5 feels so soulless, you know? They just took a direction. For example, this is why we never got maybe some of the more iconic maps in Battlefield 5. Like, there is absolutely no reason why we didn't have Omaha Beach or maybe Stalingrad or any of these, you know, more popular World War II maps. It's because, I mean, he said it himself, they basically had no time for any conceptual ideas. There was no time, guys. So they picked a narrative with the Norway skiing and all these other more lesser known stories about Battlefield 5, and they just stuck with it, guys, because they had no time to rework the campaign. They had no time to rewrite anything. They had to push what they had. Now, you might be concerned, would this happen to Battlefield 6 the way it's coming in now? I mean, it could happen to Battlefield 6 as well, guys. Maybe this is why they're not changing the non-class lock weapons, why they're not changing the matchmaking, and we're not getting a server browser. It's because they already decided for everything, and, you know, they're pushing for the release this November, I guess. However, I will drop the nuke right now and tell you that for me personally, there is a pretty big difference between Battlefield 5 and Battlefield 6 development cycles. As we now know, Battlefield 5 didn't have a lot of time to come up with ideas and conceptual design of what the game is supposed to be and how it's supposed to be played. So everything was super rushed. Battlefield 6, on the other hand, even if it wasn't actively developed for the past 5 years, still had about 5 years to come up with what the game is supposed to be. Some conceptual designs were supposed to be there, the ideology and what they're gonna follow, how the game is supposed to be played, should have been already in place. Those pillars should have been planted in the 5 years' time. And I mean, as we know today, guys, they don't even know what to do with the classes, and they're probably pushing for November launch. This is pretty concerning with the information we have today about Battlefield 5. So there's a pretty solid chance, I would say, that Battlefield 6 ends up just like Battlefield 5, just a bunch of random ideas mixed together and pushed for launch as soon as possible. The only truth we don't know here is then what has EA been doing for the past 5 years, holding these people back if like they weren't given the space to come up with this concept arts and the ideology for the game. It's criminal. So that's it from this video, guys. I'm trying to actively get this person to speak to me on voice chat so I can record that, so I don't have to tell you everything verbally, but for now you will have to be satisfied with this. Speaking of that, I hope you are also satisfied with my new microphone setup. Should sound much better than my old one. Let me know down in the comment section, how do you like my new microphone sound? I really hope you enjoyed. With that being said, guys, if you enjoyed this video, then smash the like button and subscribe if you are new here and you want to have more content about Battlefield, Battlefield 6, or you just want to enjoy some good old Battlefield and Star Wars Battlefront 2 gameplay. Take it easy, have a great day, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.